Alright, how you doing, YouTubers? Tonight I'm working on the new Project Family minivan. It's a glorified Caravan. It's a Volkswagen Routan. Picked it up for cheap. I had a transmission code. I believe it was a P0792 and a P0734. Basically, it was giving codes for speed sensor faults and bad sensor performance, and I just decided to replace those because they were cheap and easy, and those are located kind of up around the back of the transmission here. This is the Chrysler 62TE, so there's one of the sensors. There's a range sensor and an intermediate sensor and another one I forget. Not important. Ended up not being the problem. A lot more reading led me to the compounder, and it's kind of the whole summation of this, and it was just the low drum and all this other stuff in the pan here. And everybody said, well, check out the ring lands on the low drum because these wear out, and I guess the idea is that these Teflon sealing rings will spin and spin and spin on here, and eventually with the grit and grime that they have, they'll grind away at these ring lands. Now the bottom one's got some play, the top one obviously has more, but I've seen pictures and videos of people where this ring will grind its way all the way up through and clear off the end, which is pretty incredible. Obviously this one's not too bad, and there's a new style of ring where they cut a notch in the ring land right here, and then they put a tab on the ring so that it can't spin and wear out your drum. But this one's got a little bit of wear. I'll probably replace it just for kicks and giggles, but this clearly was not the smoking gun, and I started to get a little concerned because I thought, well, geez, if I don't know what's wrong with this thing, I can't make the wife happy and give her her fancy new van. And so I started pulling out the clutches because I had this sneaking suspicion that the apply piston, maybe it had a problem. It's this number 203 right there. And those have it's a metal piston that has a bonded rubber seal on it, and they're all molded together, and you can't do much about it. And sometimes the bond comes apart and they start to go bad. Well, I got to looking in here, and I noticed something pretty interesting. There's a little piece of rubber right here, and I think that the lip of this, look at that, I think the lip of this apply piston is folded over backwards, and when somebody was putting it together, they just weren't careful enough. This transmission did show signs of having been apart before. Some pretty sloppy RTV application here and there. Some things that and they didn't put it back together real well, and it had signs of leakage. So I knew I wasn't the first one to mess with this transmission. And so perhaps this has had a compounder issue before. Sad thing about it is this van actually runs and drives beautifully. You'd never know there was a problem until you take about 4 trips with it, and then it'll kind of bang itself into third gear, I think, and stay there no matter what you do. And it's hard to go over 45 miles an hour that way. And takeoffs are obviously real slow too. And then you can reset the computer and clear the codes, and then it'll just do the same thing all over again, and you don't know how many trips you might get before it happens. But anyway, I'm going to get this apply piston the rest of the way out. It looks like I'm going to have to compress this return spring here somehow and get this snap ring off. But once I figure out how to get this out, we'll see if that was the source of our issue.